Alderwoman Valencia Hall, Alderwoman Ward 1, who is also the chairman of the City Board of Aldermen Recreation Committee. And so they have met several times. They've done assessment. We've been working through that assessment of our parks. And what we came up with was, well, it's not news to anyone. The parks of the city of Natchez are in deplorable condition. It's time to address them. And I'm ready to get this done. We've come up with a long list. We put in many hours. In fact, we're putting in a number of hours tomorrow, over the course of the weekend, next week. And the reason we're putting in all this time is we're trying to get our finalized list, the list of what needs to be done. And the list is lengthy, and the list addresses park equipment, structures, facilities in all 6 of our parks, all the way from Osceola to Jack Waite to Concord Park, Duncan Park, North Natchez Park, and a couple others. It's time for us to do what has been needed for many, many years. Repair our park equipment, repair our buildings, add new bathrooms, get baseball fields in proper condition, add tennis courts, have a decent golf clubhouse, have a decent youth center at North Natchez Park. The list goes on and on. Have swing sets that aren't 40 years old and that aren't a hazard to our children. Well, in order to get all of this done, we realize we've got to have the personnel to do it. We are looking at about $1.5 million in improvements to our parks. This will be historic, significant. It's been many years since the city spent this kind of money on its parks. In so doing, we've got to have a full-time director, not part-time, to make sure that all of this can be done. And so that's why I stuck my neck out last week. As soon as I found the funds to staff a full-time director and 2 additional positions, I went to the Board of Aldermen with it last Tuesday. And we got the vote 4-2 to proceed with advertising for a full-time Parks and Recreation Director. I honestly don't know why anyone would vote against this, because the people are truly concerned about the young people in our community not having something to do. Then they should be extremely supportive and excited that we have found the money to hire on a full-time, licensed, qualified, experienced Director of Parks and Recreation, and to also add to that 2 additional positions. So we're working toward that goal. We'd like to have that person identified and hired within the next 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. It may take a little longer. We're holding that ad open, and anyone is welcome to apply, including people already working for the city. Anyone's welcome to apply. And we hope that we can get this process done. And simultaneously, we hope that we can have an issuance of bonds, $1.5 million, for the purpose of renewing our parks. Included in that list, very important to me, new playground equipment, upgrades to bathrooms and even new bathrooms, upgrades to lighting, a renovated building at North Natchez, our youth center, a deplorable building that needs to see new life and new purpose, a fully renovated golf clubhouse, and right now what is a deplorable building that has in no way any business matching what is a beautiful municipal golf course at Duncan Park. I want to see more tennis courts. I want to see new basketball goals. We are, by the way, putting up the basketball goals. They were taken down during COVID. We are now putting them back up at all of our city parks, but they're only temporary. We need new goals, new rims, new nets. City of Natchez has no business having deplorable, decrepit equipment. That doesn't send the right message to our youth, our adults, or even to our tourists. We also are going to be looking at needs, for instance, asphalt going into Duncan Park, poor condition. Baseball fields at Duncan Park, poor condition. We're looking at the baseball field at North Natchez. Time to bring it back to life. Our children need more to do. Our adults need more to do. But in addition to this, we have an opportunity for sports tourism, recreational tourism. And that's why we're looking at improvements to our ball fields, tennis courts, golf. It needs to happen. So I ask everyone to get behind us. I'm throwing out the first pitch here. It's time to play ball. Let's get on board with this. We need a full-time Parks and Recreation Director. We need a staff, and we need to equip them with what they need to finally get our parks back to where they should be. That's all I've really been thinking about lately, because I'm ready to get it done. Although, of course, I've been thinking about other things. We've had a number of other things going on. Let me say last week was a stellar week in the history of Natchez to be able to sign the deal with Viking and American Cruise Lines that now adds them to the list of American Queen, 3 companies bringing boats here, tourists here. And included in this is a plan to raise Silver Street. We've been talking about it a long time. Well, today we had a meeting here at City Hall, and we have now made the steps forward to fully engage Volkert Engineering, who will begin at once designing the new plan for a new and improved Silver Street, one that will no longer flood. This is historic. In all of its years of existence, Silver Street has always flooded, and I'm excited that under our tenure, that will be taken care of. It will not affect the view from Silver Street, where our current businesses are, in any way. In fact, that area, in spite of what some have said, is not prone to flooding. It came close, and the barricades were up in 2011, but it did not flood. The floodwaters came just south of Magnolia Grill. So it's just south of Magnolia Grill where we will begin to raise the street, eventually raising it at its lowest point, 8 feet, to get it to the stage of about, well, the river crested in 2011 historically at just shy of 62 feet. And so we're going above that mark. Why is that important? Well, it's important because it brings the boats here on a regular basis. And I understand just this week we've had 600-700 tourists land here in Natchez just this week off of the boats. And they are frequenting businesses and tourist sites all throughout our city. But the other thing it does is by raising Silver Street, it opens some land that has prior to this time been flood land, and it will now become developable land. We will see more business come under the hill. And the other thing, money. Every time those boats now dock, and this applies to Viking American Cruise Lines because they have signed directly with the city at city-owned property, and that's $2 a passenger based on the total manifest every time that boat docks. That boat docks. When you do the math, that becomes thousands of dollars. We're going to be looking to that money for some of these other things we're doing. Perhaps some of that money will help us pay for these better parks, better recreation. I will say this, where are we finding the money? I guess I'm going back to the conversation. We are about to sell Margaret Martin. And that first installment, when we get the money from that transaction, that's what we will use for that first installment of getting a Parks and Recreation program in place and hiring the personnel. And what a great thing to take money coming from the sale of an old historic school building and putting it into a program for our youth. So something else that we've been working on a lot lately, we talked about last week being a stellar week. We signed the deal with the riverboats, but we also successfully got funding, and this was historic, for a major erosion project here in Natchez. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been dealing with what could become rapidly an emergency, and it is erosion in the area of Weymouth Hall across from the historic Natchez City Cemetery. And over the last few months, with all the rains we've been getting, what started out as a small problem has grown into a huge problem, and most recently showing evidence that it could be a potential threat very soon to Cemetery Road. And so we want to thank our congressional delegation for, in record time, delivering approval to the city of Natchez for $1.2 million in relief funds to help us with that major erosion project that is now contracted and about to be underway. The city's match, however, is significant, $400,000. But if we were to put this off, it only becomes more. It only becomes more. And so this project, actually, if we could have tackled it last year, it would have only been $155,000 or so dollars. That's just how significant erosion can develop here in Natchez with the kind of soil. So we're just glad and grateful that we have found the money and gotten the federal funding to make that project work. It's better to get these done than to sit back and then one day watch a significant road like Cemetery Road fall off the bluff. That will never happen under my watch, I assure you. The other thing that we've been working on that's important to point out is we've been having meetings on workforce training and job development. This is a major part of our platform for the Natchez Renewal. And just this morning, we had a meeting with private industry and individuals from CoLin to discuss new job training programs that we can create here in Natchez to help with the needs of local industry. We have a lot of jobs right now that have been created, but they're having difficulty finding qualified candidates to fill them. And so we're working now on programs that will help create a more trained and employable workforce here in Natchez. We're excited that already a lot of our work has been paying off. We were just told today that all of the programs at CoLin that have been restarted since COVID have already hit their minimum enrollment requirements. That includes the commercial driver's license program. When we were campaigning for mayor, we made a big point that it's time to get CDL back in Natchez. And over the last few months, we've been working with CoLin to make that happen. And they agreed to bring it back on a trial basis. Well, it couldn't have been better timing because we were at Jordan Carriers, one of the region's largest employers of truck drivers, major trucking company domiciled right here in Natchez. We met with them. You've probably seen the video. You've seen the ads. Well, they've opened up 100 new jobs. These jobs pay anywhere from $60,000 to $70,000 entry level. And what great timing, because it coincided with our getting the CDL program back. We were just informed that the CDL program has met the minimum enrollment requirement, and CoLin is going to have a successful class starting June 1. There's still time to sign up. You can go to the city's website. You can also go to CoLin's website, and you will see information pertaining to the CDL program, registration information. The deadline is May 24th, just a few days away. And so make sure you get on there. If you know someone, a young person who's looking for a great job, this is their chance. Where else do you take 1 month of training and then you get a job that starts you at $60,000, $70,000 a year? The minimum requirement is 90% or better on the exam. You have to be 23 years old to get hired by Jordan. You only have to be 21 to get your CDL, but Jordan requires an age limit of 23. We're working on other job training programs. I'm excited. The school board voted Tuesday, and we have been talking to them a little bit about this. Natchez Adams School District has now opened the Fallon Center. These are for the high school students for job training, and they've got some great programs. They've now reopened that. It's been a number of years to more than just students at the high school. Now students at private schools in our area can qualify as well. That's a big deal, and we really thank Natchez Adams School District for opening their program at the public school to private school students in the Miss Lou region as well. That's really exciting. We are working with the school district on some great ideas for workforce development, and that includes a great new facility in the planning at the Steckler building. To help with that, we made a trip to Batesville 2 weeks ago. We looked at what Batesville has done in working with Northwest Community College, the school board, the city, the county. They have done an amazing job of taking, in 3 short years, what was an old outlet mall and transforming it into a state-of-the-art job training center that is scheduled to open first phase this August. Well, we took it in. We went, there was school board people, it was county, city, Natchez Inc., Chamber of Commerce, and we were met with a delegation there of even larger, and we were really inspired as to what we can do in our area to build better job training. Since then, we've been talking to people at MDA about programs. There's one going with Vicksburg and Entergy called the Energy Academy, and it is sponsored through Hines Community College, and it's allowing dual enrollment at the high school level in high school classes, job training classes, and college level job training classes. We would like to get that going here using the Steckler building as the facility to jumpstart this program. In addition to that, we have found out that there are ways to get students as early as 8th grade into the program. This is what Vicksburg is doing. And so we're wanting to do the same thing. What we're doing is we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're looking at other areas of the state where it's been done successfully, and we're wanting to duplicate that model. We're now talking about ways that we can get the city, the county, and the school board to put money in to build a sizable pot to assist in what will then come to us as matching funds from the federal government and the state government to build a great job training center here. So we're working on it. Rome wasn't built in a day. Now, I know we had said we're going to do this at the tire plant. Let me tell you why we've shifted focus. We may have some industrial prospects for the tire plant and already have a short-term tenant in that facility using it for storage as they do pipe replacement in North Natchez. But simultaneously, we have been seeking a grant that would help with the assessment of the tire plant and its degree of environmental hazard. Well, we got that grant last week. And just this week, we had a meeting and we discussed $492,000 coming to the city for this project. And we're partnering with the city, the county, our local Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality, and nationally, the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. This grant is not only going to help the city, and I left out a major partner, for Natchez, Friends of the Riverfront. This grant is not only going to help us assess what needs to be done at the tire plant, but we will also be able to assess what needs to be done at other sites, including the site of the old pecan factory on the bluff, the very important and historic MLK Triangle, and in addition to that, the old IP site. It is important to get an assessment done first. That's the stage we're in, because once we get the assessment done and we identify exactly where our environmental hazards are, we then can see the next stage, and that would be the actual cleanup funds. So this is in motion. We're working on it. I want to talk a minute about Natchez, Medical Economic Development. Over the last several weeks, we've been working very closely with a consultant that we hired with the help of Natchez Inc. The man's name is Barry Plunkett, and Barry is with Horn Group, one of the major firms in Mississippi that does consulting of this nature. We're working on a major market analysis of Natchez with regard to medical industry and medical economic development opportunities. We're getting far along in the process. We plan to have our medical market analysis done very soon. It is identifying the areas for development, the areas of opportunity, and how we can best market Natchez to make it a healthcare hub. So we are working on that. Included in that is discussion of physician and specialist recruitment. And we are working toward those goals. You'll be hearing more soon. I also want to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, and that is the importance of celebrating the African American heritage of Natchez and our African history. If you'll recall, a few months ago, it's actually been almost 10 months ago. Where has time gone? We stood on the bluff when I became your mayor. We talked about the importance of telling the whole story, the Natchez story, to make it not the best kept secret, but the best told story, the best sold story. And a big part of telling that story is telling the whole story, the story of all of Natchez. For many years, we've been focused, and it's been a big part of our culture here to focus on, the pilgrimage, the mansions, and the bluff, and the beauty of downtown, and also all of the wonderful history we have from the Natchez Indians, the Nashi, to the French, the English, the Spanish, the American. In fact, all of this is portrayed, including African symbols, meaning you give help, we give help, we need each other. All of that's on our unity flag that's actually right behind me. But we haven't done enough in Natchez to tell the real story of African American history here. So we've been having a lot of meetings. This goes back to my very first week in office. We've had a lot of meetings. What this has resulted in is our stepped up efforts to have the forks of the road brought into the national park system and made a district, a very important district, the only district of its type in the whole park system nationally, dedicated to the telling of the old, sad story of the slave market. We also have stepped up a conversation. This has been going on for months. Actually had the first meeting on this with my friends at the Historic Natchez Foundation last August. In spite of what some people are saying, it's not a Johnny-come-lately idea. A monument to the U.S. colored troops. It's finally taking form. And there will be a meeting of that committee next week, chaired by my friend Robert Purnell. We are going to build a monument to the U.S. colored troops here in Natchez, and it will be in our Memorial Park. Why is it so significant? 300 African Americans served this country during the Civil War. 300,000, 3,000 plus right here in Natchez. They've never here been given the recognition that they deserve. We're working on this. The monument will include tablets that will have the names of those actual men who served. In addition to that, we're working on signage for a very important part of our history of the cemetery. The southern border of our cemetery happens to be what was the northern fortification of old Fort McPherson, built in large part by the U.S. colored troops. We're working on signage ideas for that area. In addition to that, we've been working with NAPAC, our wonderful African American Museum here in downtown Natchez on Main Street. Had a special call board meeting there a couple weeks ago. We've identified the needs, the areas where we could help, And we're looking at that. Ideas, there's maintenance needed on that building. There's some improved lighting, banners, things that we can do, painting. In addition to that, we're looking at a signage idea that we would have a display there at the museum that would tie in with historic sites in the community. And we have a small committee working now to identify previously unmarked or underappreciated historic sites in Natchez pertaining to African American history and civil rights. We want to identify those areas and have an interactive map and an interactive UR code experience where someone with a UR code on a sign can, using their phone, learn more about the history attached to that site. We're excited. And as if all that wasn't enough, we are about to make some improvements to the Proud to Take a Stand monument that was dedicated at the City Auditorium 2 years ago to include enhanced lighting, the addition of names that were left off, more interpretive and better interpretive signage, and better landscaping. So we have a lot on our plate. I could go on and on. There's even more, but we are running out of time. Dustin, what time is it?
It is 6:05.
6:05. Let's dedicate the last 10 minutes. We'll try to sign off about 6:15. If we could, because I actually have a 6:30 meeting on an economic development prospect, and I've got to meet with someone making a trip all the way from Jackson here to talk about a big project. We meet with people whenever we can. But I've got a few minutes until then. Do we have any questions? Any comments, Dustin?
Alma Carpenter says, "Way to go, Mayor! You're doing so much for the city. Hoorah!"
Thank you.
She's asking about
Thank you, Alma.
maybe showing the public hearings of the Commission Planning and Preservation like we do this, and I'm letting her know on here that there are login and dial-in options for that.
Okay, Alma, I think that's a good suggestion to improve transparency in our city, and we appreciate you and thank you for your comments.
Tammy Pack says, "Great news." So pick which one you want to apply that to.
A lot of great news. It is, Tammy. It is. And, I want to talk about unity a minute. I spent a good bit of time just a minute ago talking about our desire to better tell the Natchez story and to better tell the story that pertains to our African American history. I truly believe that words are feeble. We have to follow everything up with action. And that's what we're trying to do. Just today, I've been all over Natchez, in addition to the meetings here at City Hall, in the rain, looking at erosion problems in North Natchez, just this morning at 11:30 with Justin Dollar. It's important. I think it's so good to see what's happening in our city all over, and it has to do with unity. The reason so many people want to buy property here, invest in our businesses, and a record number of new business permits lately, is because they want to be in a city that's at peace, a city that celebrates its history, properly tells all of its history, and is not so fixated on tearing down history as it is in properly building and celebrating all of the history. And so, with that said, I want you to know that I'm a mayor that's not interested in division. I'm a mayor who's not going to give time to political ploys, efforts to grab headlines, efforts to divide a community, efforts to pit one group against another. But no, I'm a mayor who, in the spirit of unity and peace, wants to build and not tear down. And there's a lot we can do to build here in Natchez. The monument to the U.S. colored troops, forks of the road, all these other things I said, that's significant. But what about the fact that we're looking at our parks right now? Rather than get fixated on political causes that only grab headlines and really, in the long run, don't mean a whole lot to the vast majority of us, why not spend our efforts on things that really matter? Replacing broken playground equipment that's been there for 40 years and presents a hazard to our children. Repairing a building in North Natchez that people still call a youth center. However, it's one of the most deplorable buildings I've ever seen. Looking at splash pads, looking at more tennis courts, looking at new basketball goals and improved baseball fields. That's building. And I'm a mayor more interested in building than tearing down. I celebrate the fact that here in the midst of a pandemic, Natchez has been a symbol of unity, progress, working together. And we see it now in the historic growth that's taking place here. People want to live here. People who were all about selling their houses 10 months ago and moving away are now all about buying bigger houses and staying put. It's amazing what's happening in Natchez. But what's really exciting to me is to see the city and the county and our school board and our chamber and our Natchez Inc. and our Colin and our Alcorn and all of our organizations, our clubs, all of our civic groups working together to make a difference. The Kiwanis Club undertaking a significant project to renovate a walking trail at Duncan Park that hadn't seen any attention in 20 or 30 years. To see groups that celebrate our youth, a youth event I just was told about this weekend that a lady named Diane Green is sponsoring. I just found out about it today. Don't know much about it. Things done, our Head Start. I understand graduating another class. All the great things happening there. Looking to our schools, who in spite of the pandemic, I talked to my friend Tony Fields last week, told me in spite of all of it, they're looking forward to a great graduation and even planning a motorcade. I was excited to speak to a packed crowd at First Baptist Church Friday, ACCS, a fantastic graduation at a time when just a year ago we couldn't have graduation. Going to a great event and speaking at the installation of the National Honor Society candidates for Cathedral last Friday. You know, when you look around our community, there's so much good happening. And there's so much unity that I don't have time for the other. Disunity, it has no place on my radar. Controversy for the sake of grabbing a headline or helping someone in their political career, that has no place on my radar, and I don't have time for it, and I will not engage or be engaged in it. I just think it's important to get that out there. I'm not about tearing down. I'm about building up. And if we're going to tell our whole story, we're going to tell the whole story. Some of it isn't pretty. Some of it isn't all that great, but yet it is our story. And it has helped define who we are. And if we don't tell that story, then we are shortchanging ourselves, our children, and future generations. And you know, it's also important to just throw out another quote. Those who don't properly honor their history, those who don't know their history, may possibly be doomed to repeat it. History is important. Not just telling part of it, but telling all of it. Anything else?
Nathan Gauthier says, great work, Mayor.
Thank you, Nathan. Nathan, I found you another client. A guy just bought a boat. If you need another client, let me know. I've already told him about you. It's not me. I don't have time to buy boats.
Heather Sanders says, I've noticed the sweetest spirit in Natchez walking through daily life between black and white, if I may mention. it's a beautiful thing. Natchez is doing well.
It's a beautiful thing. And I'm just so grateful for all of the people we have in the city working together. I'm so grateful for, I can just think of right now, police officers, fire department, fire officers. I can think of department directors. I can think of aldermen. I can think of people right here at City Hall, right here in our mayor's office, who have that spirit of working together. And they really are so far past what color somebody is. It's all about just being one, unity, community. It equals opportunity. And we can have neither opportunity nor community without unity.
Leslie Floyd says, I wish all could see positive in things. It's the only way we can move forward.
It is. It is.
All things may not be perfect, but it's a start.
That's right. And I also believe that truly the positive always occupy the winning seat. Nobody wants negative. And a community that immerses itself in negativity will not go far and will not be celebrated as a place people want to live. So Leslie, help me. Let's keep that positive train rolling, because positivity is what it's all about. I'm excited about tomorrow. Go to Jackson. We've got a police candidate graduating, police academy up there, the city of Jackson's academy. We're so excited about that. So we'll be going to that. We have so many good things happening. I haven't even mentioned we are working on the third audit, about to get the city's finances all finally caught up. We will have done 3 audits in 1 year. That's unheard of. We're trying. I also have to throw this out too. We managed to get raises for city workers for the first time, many of them in 8 years. There were some we were able to get raised from $8 to $10 out at the golf. Wish we could do more. But the idea of a grown man working with the city of Natchez over 20 years and only making $8, well, we've managed to take care of that. Where we find the money, well, we're just being smart with our money. And we are managing it like you should manage it. Hadn't even mentioned this. Major update to our ordinance. We now have a $500 fine for littering. Just signed the ordinance today. Hey, that money will come in handy. We're looking at our animal ordinance. There's so many other things. Dustin, I think we're out of time though.
We're out of time. We have 1 minute.
Any parting remarks? I appreciate Dustin. You do a good job. If any of y'all saw the video, Jordan Carriers, the CDL program, the announcement of 100 new jobs, that was all done by Dustin Hinkle in-house, and it was so professional. We're going to be doing more videos. We have more job announcements coming. A lot of jobs on the horizon. And that's what it boils down to. We need jobs, opportunity. And by the way, the governor's ending the free lunch. The free paycheck is stopping in June. So folks, it's time to roll up our sleeves and go to work again. And if you're having trouble finding a job in Natchez, hey, call me. I'll show you where to look. They're all over the place. There are hundreds of jobs available in Natchez right now. Anyone who doesn't have a job just hasn't bothered to look. That's exciting, exciting news. Well, God bless all of you. God bless Natchez. Thank you, as always, for letting me be your mayor. It's the honor of my life. Take care.